Here we
Hello,
are
hello.
in our Diffuse Network Zoomcast, a word that I made up. So happy to have you here. I'm Angie Stryker. I'm hosting this, and today my co-host is a guest, Chris Burns. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Is
Love
that
it.
it, or do
Chris,
you want me to say more?
where are you sitting right now? Where are you at?
I'm Chris Byrne. I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have the beautiful honor of leading three beautiful campus ministries at Emory University, Oxford College, and Kennesaw State called Bread Coffee House.
Love it. So good. And then we have Jack here with us. Jack, please tell me how you say your last name because I'm pretty sure I've been saying it wrong.
Yes. I'm Jack Pradel, but the prayers are not dull. They are lively. They are vibrant. And I'm from Detroit. I'm from Illinois, actually, but I reside and currently am doing ministry with my life in Detroit, Michigan.
Mm.
Awesome. Pradel, right?
Pradel. Yep,
Pradel. Okay.
correct.
I've been saying Pradel for a long time, so I will
All
change
good.
that.
All
And
good.
you
I
came
love
into the
it.
Diffuse Network because of Pete, is that right?
Because of Josh.
Oh,
Josh Chaffin was my campus pastor at Central Michigan University. And from my second day on campus as a freshman, me and one of my peers at the time, Caleb Shantz, got plugged into his house Christian Fellowship. And starting 3 weeks into freshman year, Josh took us under his wing. I met with him weekly throughout all 4 years of undergrad, and really was instrumental in my understanding of Christianity and my faith, as well as we focused heavily on what is discipleship, what does it look like to be a disciple maker, and a maker of disciples who make disciples. So yes, got plugged in through Josh Chaffin and Pete, and Diffuse has been super excellent getting connected with so many spiritually minded and entrepreneurial minded individuals.
yeah. It's so interesting to me that so many of us are former or current campus ministers because I
Mhm.
think campus ministers are used to innovating and trying new things. Like I made this example at the last summit, but at some point we had a golf cart access and we put that golf cart all over campus at Georgia Tech and we pulled a knee boarder behind that golf cart through a fountain, all just so that we could meet other people on campus. And so it's like
Yep.
innovation is the name of the game in college ministry. And I think because of that, I don't know if that worked or not, doesn't matter. But
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Actually, I had a pickup truck and we would rent out a space in the tailgating parking lot. And we'd bring the grill and we would just hand out free hot dogs, free waters, and just talk to people, build that relationship, talk about Christ. So I was a former young life leader as well. So having that mindset is huge because once again, you're not looking to just invite individuals to the historical church building, but you're looking to reach them where they're at. So something I'm very passionate about.
yeah, so cool. And you're so good at it. So,
Yes.
Diffuse Network is all about finding those people that we would call spiritual entrepreneurs that are on the ground, they are passionate, they are trying all sorts of ways to reach people and love people in their context. So, that's what we're here to celebrate today. So, Jack, tell us about your context. What does it look like? What are the needs? What breaks your heart?
Yeah. So a little quick root background. So in diving into discipleship and what it looks like to make disciples, with Josh Chaffin, with Caleb Shantz as a freshman, really diving into what does the Great Commission look like. Therefore, going and making disciples of all nations, teaching them about Jesus and his commands. And one of the translations that's beautiful is the word for therefore go can be translated to as you go. So
Mm,
as you're going. So really an encouragement to the disciples that wherever you are, we are to be making disciples. So really saw that as a freshman on campus, Josh challenged us with what's the largest way that you could see God move this year? And we said to reach our dorm. We were on campus in the business college, and we said we have a lot of peers that respect us, respect our faith, and have questions, but don't want to be going to church with us. So launching kind of just like a in the dorm life group or community group, and seeing individuals choosing to get baptized who later became leaders in the church, who later led life groups, that really just raised the calling for my life. So I got involved in I did like a weekend community trip to Detroit, about 2.5 hours from Central Michigan, and in interacting with students, hearing their life stories and their backgrounds, I had this passion grow where the Jack was not a part of the equation. It was these individuals, like everywhere I go, there's individuals that need Jesus. Um, but my life wouldn't be as joyful if I wasn't here. It wasn't that anyone in Detroit needs Jack, right? But it was that my life would be more joyful, more vibrant if I chose to be in Detroit. So my wife and I got married in 2019. And we were doing ministry through a more organized after school program, building relationships with students in the community. And that nonprofit came to a close kind of during pandemic, right? You don't have students going to school, they're not going to after school program. And we were incredibly prayerful with where we decided to live. We prayed and fasted over the course of a few months, and there was a home a mile away from the nonprofit that we had significant peace with. We bought the house end of 2019, moved in, and then the world kind of shut down. But the intention and the goal was we were already sharing our lives with families in the neighborhood, and we wanted to build on top of that. So to answer your question of our mission, our context, my wife and I collectively together share our life with and are on ministry in our local Detroit neighborhood. It's not my profession. I work a full-time corporate role, where I do a lot of community engagement and I hire individuals into a large tech company. But throughout the year 365, where we're living and how we spend our time, our resources, our talents is really to reach our local Detroit community, our neighborhood for Christ. Dialing in on that a little more, being in youth ministry, we saw some of the caveats and the nuances of, you know, walking alongside individuals who are younger and having them experience Christ and going home to incredibly broken households. And that really broke our heart for families. So our heart is for family units. And we desire that whether we're pouring into husbands, fathers, wives, mothers, siblings, kids, that we're approaching it as a kind of a family first mindset. Our goal is never to replace any parents, but we want to restore. We desire to see restoration in families, and we know that oftentimes there's no restoration without Christ. So sometimes that branches off into like youth ministry. My wife coaches the local like cheerleaders. She was a collegiate athlete and cheerleader. And through that, she earns trust and grows closer with families. We're able to host them for meals and get closer with the parents, and see how can we aid tangibly, what are physical needs that we can step into as we're also working to develop character. One of the avenues that I am passionate about is just exercise and fitness. So I launched a home gym where I provide free strength training and conditioning to young men in my neighborhood. I've had a few different cohorts. So it started with some Christian peers in my church where we would work out and exercise, strengthening our fitness and our faith. We kind of have this motto of we're shaping character through competition. And so everyone that comes in, I have them pray and think about, why are you here? And I have them write down their vision on our basement wall. So every day they come down to exercise, they see their vision. And we play Christian music, so music that is exciting and upbeat, but is not demeaning or derogatory, to just shape how we are fueling our body and what we're putting into our body, tangibly with nutrients as well as music wise. And then we kind of wrap up talking about the verse of the day and how it applies to our life. So expanded that into two young men, Cole and Noah, who, when they started working out, they were either eighth graders or freshmen in high school. And just this past, so it's October 2025 now, just this past May, we celebrated both of them graduating high school and going to college. So they have been launched and encouraged to live as if they are missionaries on campus.
Mm.
They're playing baseball, and I've encouraged them to form and create the same dynamic that we had in our basement with two or three of their teammates to continue being intentional about exercising and infusing the word. And then to reach more of our families, we launched we call it our Black Club. So this is not an HOA. There's no fees involved. The goal was we want to build relationships with our neighbors. We read a book. It's called Placed for a Purpose by Chris and Elizabeth McKinney, and it challenged us to really evaluate where are we living and who are the neighbors that we see every day, who are the coworkers that we see every day, and how can we reach them for Christ. So it started with little things such as intentionally running out of ingredients so that we can walk over to our neighbors or text them and ask them to borrow eggs or milk or sugar. It's so easy, right? We could DoorDash these ingredients. I could drive a mile to the Aldi, but we created avenues for emotional and relational deposits, right? And it's not just me mowing the lawn and shoveling. It's me asking my neighbors for help, rearranging furniture in our household, picking up leaves. So we really desire treating others with integrity, and a lot of that is viewing them as God's child and my brother or sister, right? So treating them with dignity and allowing them to serve us as well. So we don't shy away from asking for help. So that created the Black Club on our street. So we host monthly meetings where we invite everyone on the street into our home, provide a meal, and we just talk. And we try to steer away from complaints, but we ask, like, what do you desire to see changed, right? So we've done 3 or 4 neighborhood projects where we clean up the alley behind our house. I live in an inner city context, so very close houses. So a lot of times we're helping neighbors with lawn work. We've hosted a few different like barbecues, cookouts in the summer, and we've opened it up. And we've asked other neighbors, hey, this is not about Jack and Nikki. This is about our community. So several others on our street have hosted like Christmas parties, events where we've created Christmas wreaths. We've done potlucks. And the goal is that we now have a relational foundation. It's no longer the individual across the street. It's our neighbor who we know by name. We have, a common form of communication where we can talk. And I can't tell you how many times we've had students getting dropped off the bus, stopping at our house because they felt unsafe, or there was a dynamic where they desired an adult and they knew that our home was a safe place. We've had moms who drop off kids on their way to work or family emergencies. We lean in, and we've had neighbors live with us for periods of time where we're providing support, but we're also helping them to break down what is the situation, what has led us to here, how can we move forward. And then the one other dynamic that I want to talk about is growing the home gym. Just had a passion for like, hey, we want to expand this. How can we reach young men in the neighborhood? And not everybody's going to come to church. Not everybody's going to come into my home. So just in praying about, Lord, where can we be? There is a basketball court within every 2 square miles in Detroit. So me and one of my peers, Aaron, just had it on our heart. We desire for every single court in Detroit to have a Christ follower that is building relationships, changing the dynamic of basketball on the courts. And so we just started showing up consistently every single week, meeting young men, playing pickup basketball outside. You see some good community engagements and some very rough and non-ideal community interactions. And we lean into that because once again, it's our community. It's not us driving 20 minutes, it's us riding our bikes or driving our vehicle. And we saw that there was a need. Guys were constantly walking to the liquor store to get snacks, to get drinks. So we say, hey, why don't we bring a cooler of ice every week and fill it with, two cases of water and just say, hey, anyone that wants to help yourself. And that was incredible in creating those emotional deposits and relational deposits, right? Where people that have never seen me before are walking over, hey, man, how much you selling that water bottle for? We're not. It's free, but I want to know your name. Like how long have you lived in the community? A lot of these guys are junior high, high school, or post high school, right? Some of them are working professionals. We see a lot of young parents. We see a lot of parents who are navigating co-parenting as they might not be continuing in relationship with each other. So we once again, just to summarize that, like we have such a desire for Christ to be known in our local community. And we're making $0 from all these initiatives. I'm working a corporate role to allow us to continue to provide some of these avenues and funding. And that has challenged us, right? We're not able to scale if we're not asking for outside funds or if we're not paying individuals. But right now, where we are is we're leveraging others in our neighborhood that are passionate about Christ or passionate about helping others. And we're using that common thread to allow them to step alongside us. So now we're doing ministry along non-believers. And we're showing them what it looks like to love as Christ. And they're experiencing that love. And it challenges them as well to, well, why are we doing this? Right. And when certain scenarios come up, the way that we respond is something that can be learned from, as believers. So I'll pause there, but that was the overall summary. But we just desire to share our life with our community in Detroit.
Oh my gosh. I hope you're taking notes, Chris. I didn't bring anything to write with. I'm like, this is so good. Like, it's so beautiful to hear your heart and your life. And it's not just ideas and dreams, like you guys are actually doing it every single day. And I just love the intentionality of living there and just making it happen and always asking questions, not just, oh, this is what we do. That's it. You could have stopped at the gym. You could have stopped other things. But anyway, I'm so inspired. So other questions around this. It sounds like, and I like to dumb things down mostly for myself, but in Diffuse Network, we say the three of our 325 is mission, community, and worship. And so it sounds like, and you can change this if it's not right, but it sounds like the mission is just living intentionally alongside and doing life every day with your neighbors and in your community so that they can understand Christ's love, something like that.
Absolutely.
Love
Absolutely.
it. So good. And so then the community piece is sort of looking at who does this with you, like who are you bringing alongside? And you've already answered that. So it's obviously your wife and your children. You have three.
Yes. 5-year-old, a just turned 4-year-old, and an 8-month-old. So
Amazing.
they're leaning in as well.
Oh my gosh. And then it sounds like you're bringing other people are jumping in, whether they believe it or not. Like they're
Mhm.
just, do it. They're belonging and they're walking alongside you as part of what I would say is your team. So you've got this mission, you've got
Yep.
this community of people that are doing things with you. And then usually I have to ask and kind of dig for, so what's the worship piece? But like you're doing all of the worship. You're doing the prayer before the time you work out, you're doing verses, you're doing service in the community. And so is there anything else that you would say is like we call it the big W, like the worship piece that's coming alongside the M and the C?
Um, the only other item I would add is we are so transparent and vocal about how the Lord is moving. A lot of times, as believers, we're praying, we're fasting, we're asking for items, and the Lord delivers.
Mm.
And then it's just, oh, I landed the job. Oh, we bought a new house. Like we are very forward with giving God the glory and praise. I don't have a tangible reason as to why we're living in the neighborhood that we are. Others will be like, oh, it's kind of because you're close to work. I decided where to work after we landed on the community that
Wow.
we're living. And the real answer is because we believe that the safest place for our family is to be in the Lord's will. In this current season, we believe that His will and His presence is with us in our community in Detroit. We frequently return to his presence with open hands. Lord, here's what you have trusted us with, and we're willing to surrender it all. We're willing to pick up and move, to start over new, and we continue to come back to him to ask, where do you desire us? And the last 5, 6 years, 2019 to 6 years now, it's been to continue remaining in our local context and community. So I would just say that, the exceptions that I've had with work to continue staying in Detroit and not have to relocate. The way that the Lord moved in our home, He placed a specific dollar amount on our price, and our realtor said there's no way. And it was sold to us 60K less than asking at the exact dollar amount that the Lord put on our heart. He
Wow.
told us that He was going to fill our house. And within 2 months of purchasing our house was overflowing with furniture from people that barely knew us, from people that knew us, that all of a sudden they upgraded furniture and wanted to give us their old furniture, or they were moving and said, "Hey, come on over and take anything you want." And we moved into our house. I had young men that I'm, mentoring help me move in, and we had 3 full-size couches, a coffee table in excess, and we were able to load it back in the vehicle and take it to their house. And walking in, and one of them had no furniture in their living room, and the Lord not only provided for our house, but has overflowed, so that changed the dynamic of their family. They're
Yeah.
now eating meals and sharing a community in their living room compared to before going to their bedrooms. And we just see that time and time again, praying for very specific things and having the Lord deliver. So I would just say that's one other aspect of worship is like the Lord says, ask, seek, and knock. And when we're doing His will, when we're aligned with where He's called us, when we're being obedient, it's not always going to be in our timing, but what we've seen is typically it's better than we ask and pray for.
Amazing. That is so cool. So cool. Okay, so I am comfortable, and we are comfortable in the Diffuse Network saying that this is the church of tomorrow. Like, it doesn't have to be the sanctuary with the pews and the stained glass and the things, the way that the model we've always have seen for the last probably 500 years. We're comfortable saying that the church of tomorrow is when the M and the C and the W come together in that beautiful Venn diagram. And are you comfortable saying that you're operating a church over there? Sometimes that makes people nervous, but it feels very clear to me that that's what you're doing over there.
Yeah, yeah. And what we just always continue to say is once again, like it's not about us, right? Like we try to remove ourselves from the center, and it's about our community. And like we'll talk about a little bit more, but like we're in the process of shifting a lot of like ownership for items to others on our street and in our community who are passionate. And it's interesting, right? Because some of these individuals are not believers, but they're now a part of fostering a community that is showing others Christ. And that's a very interesting nuance that we haven't really seen previous models of this before. So it's kind of uncharted territory, but it's been very exciting.
Incredible. Oh my
Do you
gosh,
guys
I love
have a
it.
home church?
What was that?
Do you guys have a home church? Do you worship
We
somewhere?
do.
Yeah.
Yes. So we do have a home church. We for about 4 years led what we call a life group through our church. So we are active leaders and members. Every Sunday we are attending church, and we do invite members of our community and our neighbors to there. And we have had individuals come, but I would say it's less than 5. But when we have invited neighbors to our house to participate in our life group, we invite them over for dinner, and a conversation is essentially what we're doing. And we have seen numerous neighbors who then are bringing their parents, their kids, and we open it up. We launched it through our church. It's called Woodside Detroit, but it was very cool. Our life group represented 7 different churches in the city of Detroit. We have a couple who is in the process of launching their own church now. They're in a church plant, and we we called it our Holy Huddle. This is where we are growing as spiritual leaders, and there are some individuals that were very new to their faith, but we are encouraging that this would be a place for us to fill up so that the other 6 days of the week we're pouring out. And we had members leave our group to launch a business group where there were a recent graduate and they launched a Bible study with several of their peers in the Detroit context, talking about what does it look like to be a working professional for Christ. We had a woman who left to start a community group with three of her female neighbors, and like the stories just go on and on. So yes, we are part of a more like typical version of what you would see as a church. But where we've seen, like, what really excites us has been, that we've been able to bring them in, and now we're able to like be an example and encourage others in our church. Hey, we shouldn't just be inviting individuals on Sunday. Once again, we're here representing 7 different churches, but most importantly, we're here representing Christ. And the ultimate goal isn't that we're growing the numbers of this name, that name, this. We're here to grow the name of Christ and for his name to be glorified. But yeah, excellent question.
That's so good. And so part of the 3-2-5 is the 2 is our idea of a dugout and a playground is what we say in the Diffuse Network. Playground is where you play, try, fail, experiment, fall down. But the dugout is where you go back for strategy, refreshment, pat on the back and a Gatorade, whatever it might be, prayers. And so it sounds like you have a really beautifully established dugout that you can go back to. And because you're doing, like you said, the 6 days of the week ministry, this one day where you go back in and fill up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. And we have a couple very close to us, Aaron and Chloe, and they have poured into our marriage, and really serve as a very good temp check, right? They're the ones that are constantly ensuring that we're taking care of ourselves, that we're focusing on our individual relationships with Christ. So it's never pouring out of our last, but it's the abundance that overflows. And in many ways, the home gym has become my dugout. These are the guys that now are strong believers, and we are pushing ourselves physically to our limits, and then talking about what we're struggling with, what we're dealing with, whether it's within our marriage, our ministry, our work. That's when we're bringing the real to each other, and able to really encourage and pray, because we're getting together 3 times a week anyways. So you run out of things to talk about very quickly if you stay surface level. So that in many ways has become our dugout, because once again, those are the individuals that I'm inviting into my home, and that are really challenging me, pouring into me, encouraging me. So yes, it's been beautiful.
Very cool. And so then as far as the 2 goes, dugout, playground, we like to celebrate failures because we think if you're not going,
Yes.
you're not trying. And so like innovation requires failure. So tell us something in a couple of minutes of like something you tried and they're like, that so did not work. Not doing that.
Yeah, I've got 2 for you. So before we launched the basketball ministry, which is like the every week, me and Aaron, and then we're bringing others, and now some of the individuals that we've been mentoring for 2, 3 years, Arthur and Antoine, like they're leading this with us, right? And there's weeks that I'm not there, and they're going and bringing the waters and reading scripture, talking to guys. So before we launched that, I came back from the first diffuse and I said, this would be so beautiful and cool what we're doing in our home gym. We're going to have a home gym network. The individuals that have been working out with me, they're going to start their own home gyms. We're going to collectively get together in Detroit once a month or 2 times a month for all of the networks. But then these leaders have seen this model. They're going to go and they're going to replicate it. And then our goal will be 1 to 2 years, having like 2 to 4 other individuals exercising with us. And then we're just going to continue repeating, that model of disciples who make disciples who make disciples. Yeah. But not everybody has a home gym. And not everybody is passionate about spending the funds and acquiring the equipment or has the space. And in Detroit, a lot of my peers are in condos, in apartments, and just aren't passionate about it. So I came back fired up from the first diffuse, and the guys I worked out with were like, no, like this is our community. Like we want to continue this. And so we tried for like a month of like, hey, let's keep this as our dugout, but let's also have this be our playground. And they couldn't find other guys that were interested, or like they were like, oh, we're gonna do it at a Planet Fitness, so it's like low cost to entrance, and it just wasn't the same dynamic. So the home gym network is not on the radar anymore. But establishing that as my dugout, we're like, okay, the playground's going to be the basketball ministry, right?
Mm.
So, me and Aaron had already for a full 2 summers been playing pickup basketball at 4 or 5 different courts throughout the summer. And we established and we prayed about one specific court for the summer. I don't remember. I think it was 2020 or 2021. One specific court that we were going to be at every single week at minimum Tuesdays, some days Thursdays. And then it turned into having the basket or the waters and the cooler there as well. And then the summer was coming to a close. And we said, okay, we need to launch and secure a partnership so that we can open up a new free pickup gym throughout the winter because we want to continue the same model throughout the winter. We prayed, we fasted. We had individuals coming to us saying, this school, this church, this nonprofit have a gym. It makes sense. They're in this community. They would love to have it. We had people referring locations to us, and doors were being closed like no other. We'd leave meetings with nonprofits thrilled, and then they would go to their board and it would get denied.
Mm.
Going to schools, talking about how we would be willing to set up official mentorship models with our church, with our community to mentor students to the church. And then they would come back and say no. And we didn't secure any gym for that year. And we spent that winter praying, fasting, and talking about what we were learning. And in many ways, we were learning that lesson that I talked about earlier of it cannot be about us.
Mm.
It cannot be centered on us. And we were so excited about launching this new gym so that we could tell the guys, hey, this winter, we secured this partnership with X school, church, or nonprofit, and we're going to open the gym. We'll have the keys in our hand and we'll invite you and we'll shape the dynamic how we want. And that I don't believe was the Lord's will for us in this current season. So we spent an entire winter learning that lesson. And the next summer, we asked other guys, where did you play basketball? And we heard some guys playing at LA Fitness or this gym or that gym and costing. And near the end of the summer, there was like 5 guys over the course of a month that came up to us and were like, hey, listen, there's this group. It's called Better Men Outreach. And they're meeting at a nonprofit right around the corner, and they're already doing an open gym. The location where they're meeting at is one of the nonprofits that told us yes originally, and then came back and said, no, it's not going to work out. We already have a similar program. And we learned that the individuals that were in that program and running that program were 60% the same guys that we were pouring into all summer. But the difference was we didn't launch the gym and invite them. After 3 years of playing basketball, pouring into those relationships, they invited us to their pickup gym where they already have a culture, a dynamic, a flow of things, and we're able to be their guests. And on the sideline, we're having intentional conversations. They circle up and we have a discussion at the beginning to talk about hot topics. And the goal is to raise men to think before they speak, because in many contexts, that can save your life. That simple action of thinking before you speak or thinking before you act. And we've been invited to pray at the end of those discussions. And this is not a Christian context, Christian organization, but these are guys that now know that we're living what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And once again, it was a failure for us to think that we needed to start something new. In many of our communities, there's so many resources and programs. And I really believe that as Christians, yes, many times we are called to be entrepreneurs and start, but many times we're called to step alongside and partner with community leaders that are already influential. And they have the influence, they have the programming, and we're bringing the scripture, we're
Love
bringing
it.
the Holy Spirit. So I would say those are two significant items that didn't go as planned. But once again, it's better than
Yeah.
what we had in store.
Yeah. Yeah. We call them BFFs, your big fat failures, but usually you learn a ton and or something else comes out of it that's better. So that collaboration piece is awesome. My last question is about the APEST, and we say APEST from Ephesians 4. Some are called to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some shepherds, some teachers. And the Diffuse Network is really about supporting those who would be apostolic, the ones that are able to see vision and go after it and have no fear. Like they'll just try stuff and see what happens. But that is not to negate like the need for the full APEST on the team. Like we think if if the church of tomorrow is to be sustained, then you've got to have everybody else on the team so that the apostles can go do what they're awesome at, right? Like go to the next thing and pivot and all that. So, as an apostle, have you seen other gifts already rising up? Like you sound like you've done a great job of bringing alongside people to help you do all the various things, but like, have you seen a specific gift either rise up or one that you need that you can address that you'd be
Yes.
praying about?
But where we have a need significantly is the shepherds and the teachers. Shepherds is probably our largest need for a community that has lots of needs.
Mhm.
We need individuals who are willing to continue to invest and do life when things get hard. It I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easier to do ministry if it looks like hosting a Bible study for 2 to 3 hours, one night a week, and then kicking everybody out. And, after conversations get hard, offering them prayers, but kicking them out, and then just texting throughout the week and asking how they're doing. That's not what our heart is for. Our heart is that we have shepherds and we have individuals that are driving our neighbors to their jobs, to their
Wow.
interviews, providing the childcare that is needed, sharing the resources, hearing of one of my neighbors that, hey, what's new? I just had a son. What? I didn't even know you're expecting. Like, what do you need? And like him coming over and us walking through a house and taking 3 to 4 trips of like baby rockers and cribs and pack and plays and chairs and toys and diapers and clothes and then texting other neighbors like, hey, they've got nothing, who else like has items that we can share. Basically, like, what would it look like for like a Facebook marketplace to be free for our community where
Mhm.
we're just simply sharing resources, elevating needs. We've allowed others to like utilize our vehicle when they've had issues. And so we're in the process of teaching others that ministry takes sacrifice. And we have a lot of individuals that desire to host items. But leadership many times can look like, are you willing to sacrifice a few hours cleaning up our neighborhood?
Mm.
Are you willing to sacrifice some of your groceries and resources to the community? And that is a harder ask for people to say yes to. Like to ask somebody to open their home is a lot. To ask somebody to host a meal or lead a discussion is a lot. But once you start asking someone to borrow their vehicle for a week, or to live in their spare room, or like those, that changes the flow of your family, that changes the rhythm of your normal. And we truly believe that to step out of our comfort, it shouldn't be where can we find time for ministry. It should be every week where we have a family meeting and we're talking about what does the rhythm of this week look like. Because if somebody has nobody to watch their 2 year old, it's all hands on deck, right? So there's a need for shepherds in our neighborhood.
Love it. It's such a good framework that helps see what you're doing, and none of it's that's not bad and that's not better. It's like having it
Yes.
all built out. Yeah. All right, I'm done with the questions, Chris. I'm handing it over to you. What do you got?
What's your wife? Just I have 1,000 little questions, but what's your how does your wife where does she fall on the APES?
Um, well, first, Nikki is incredible, and like none of this would be possible if she wasn't wired the way that she is and so passionate. And when we were dating, we were having conversations about where do you see the Lord using you in your future marriage? Where do you desire to live in your future, and having these conversations. Um, and that was really the moment where we began to see that, like, hey, this is just somebody that I find attractive or is just a Christian, but like this is somebody that I can do ministry alongside in a very unique context. My wife would probably fall most into shepherd. She can exercise all of them. But she really is probably like the strongest shepherd that we have, willing to serve through eternity and never receive any acknowledgement, never to have her name on anything. She is technically the president of our block club, but it was because she went to our neighbors and said, "Hey, we need to establish some sort of relationship and avenue for communication. Who wants to lead it?" And everyone said, "This is incredible.
You did.
We'll support you, but we don't want to lead." So she was voluntold as the president, but ever since then, she has been desiring and trying to raise up somebody to take over that because she wants to be behind the scenes, pouring in and leaning. And she is such a strong shepherd that there's times that individuals in her household and I may be leaning heavily into like the teaching and growing, and she is loving them, supporting them, pulling together resources, putting together meal drives, and gift baskets, and like she really is what brings all of this possible and unifies all of this. And it's really beautiful because when she comes to the basketball court, and when I go to the things that she's mainly the head of her leaning, you can just see the impact that she has behind the scenes and in front. But once again, it's she desires to not have her name on anything, but she's forwarding a lot of these initiatives just because like it's such a need. So yeah, that's where she leans heavily.
Uh, that's awesome, man. Another question I have, surely you just exude like energy and positivity. Surely you go through some dark days and some disappointments. How do you face some of those disappointments? And especially you're bound to run into people in the neighborhood who are not for what you're trying to do. So
Yes.
how do you engage with that and stay positive and face all
Yeah.
that?
Great question.
We've had individuals that like we did a block cleanup and a new sign on the street behind us, and like the lights on the sign were like smashed in and there was like damage, and and trying to orchestrate barbecues and events, you get drama and conflict and like who's hosting and where's it, and we've done our best in like times that we face like odd pushback tangibly and physically. We do our best to always like index on decentering ourselves and like empowering and equipping others, like listening to their desires. And absolutely you can host, absolutely you can lead, absolutely like but then there's also times that, hey, this is as a community what we decided was going to be the sign, right? And we don't know where this destruction came from, but like as a community, like this is impacting us. One of the avenues that is so special about how we believe the Lord is calling our family to ministry is items that are detrimental to our neighbors um, are detrimental to us. When we've had a lot of work because a lot of these homes are older and there's been lots of lead. So we've had water issues and water will be off for days, or lead in water. And like, we're not just hearing about this from people that we're serving and then going back to our comfort. Like, we are in the same predicament. And when there's like vandalism or scenarios that physically might put our family or a neighborhood in danger, we have the same safety concerns. We've had lives lost of young individuals who were caught in crossfire of gun violence in homes. And it was an ex cheerleader of my wife's, and she had to navigate talking to elementary school students about why their peer wasn't there anymore.
Mm.
So when we face tangible and spiritual warfare, we do our best to decenter us and to really index on like using those events to bring the community together. But this is also where having a dugout is crucial. Just hearing like, no, we can't have anywhere except our application to have a free gym. Like, I'm beating myself up. And why is this happening, right? And having the dugout, they're proposing new ideas. And hey, this isn't the end. Like, this is an avenue for you to pivot. So Amira is 5, Trinity's 4. We were pregnant with a third daughter, Evelyn, and we had a miscarriage before our youngest, Daniel, was born. And in that season, our dugout in our community, we found out right before a family trip, still decided to go on the family trip. And when we returned, um, our dugout has a spare key to our house. They let themselves in and they had orchestrated an event where they deep cleaned our entire house, reorganized our kitchen, they meal prepped, grocery shopped, and we came in and it looked like a professional service, had cleaned our house, provided meals, provided, individuals providing free childcare to watch our kids, to let us go on dates and talk and, invest in our marriage. So we have navigated loss in our family, loss in our community. We've navigated spiritual warfare for our efforts and just things that are happening. And we desire to keep the Lord Jesus Christ at the center. We desire to allow it to bring our community together instead of pointing fingers to lean in and say this is hurtful to all of us. And one avenue, and you wouldn't know this on a Zoom cast, but this is one of the most difficult seasons I personally have been in. In short, I was on a work trip 4 months ago now, and a sign fell at the hotel I was staying at, and it hit me on my head. And I went to the hospital, and it has resulted in a traumatic brain injury, concussion, post-concussive syndrome, which means I have the nasty concussion symptoms ongoing. It's impacted my ability to sleep, to focus, and I have a vision impairment called convergence insufficiency. My pupils are not working together. So my brain it results in double vision, inability to see clearly, especially for items close, or my brain is suppressing the image of my right eye.
Mm.
It has impacted my ability to work. It has impacted my ability to focus, my ability to index on being patient. I have significant sensitivity to light, to sounds. I'm not at full capacity for work. And that also means I'm not full capacity for these items. Had to take an entire month off of everything. And our community leaned in to help. They are mowing our lawn because I can't with the volume. I have some workplace accommodations, but we're having individuals that are dropping off meals, helping with childcare. I am overstimulated at the end of each workday and getting migraines every single day, struggling to sleep. And as a human being, it's most difficult to be patient and kind when you're in pain or when you're not sleeping well. And that's every single day right now. So I have been learning a lot in this season about trusting that the Lord's ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. We believe that He has a purpose for this. I've never talked about prayer and my faith more in my workplace than now because every conversation with the coworker, they're asking how I'm doing. And I'm able to bring up that I'm working to trust in the Lord and I'm praying for a miracle. I'm praying for healing. We're receiving diagnoses that I cannot return to exercise as normal, and that I will never be able to return to pick up basketball or some of these avenues due to the risk of getting injured again. If I when I get to the point of healing, there's a lot of diagnoses that say this is going to come back and it will come back worse. And so what we're doing is praying, Lord, this was one avenue of discipleship. And if I can never pick up a basketball again, I'm working to surrender that to you. If I can never work out at full capacity again, I'm working to surrender that to you, but still use us to further your kingdom. Still use that to your glory. And in this season, more than ever, our family and I am being decentered, which is good as a reminder, and Jesus is being centered, and it's allowing us to pivot. We're leaning on others in our neighborhood to host the events, to lead the cleanups. We're asking them to mow our yard to help us with the basketball ministry. I'm leaning on the guys that I've been co-leading this effort with to continue pouring out in the community. And they're asking, why hasn't Jack been out a single time this summer? And we're able to share the prayer request and what we're praying for and what we believe will happen with the healing at work. And, with life, like we took a step back. We're not leading a life group right now. My wife took a step back. She's not leading the cheerleading. So we've stepped back in a lot of areas, but it's spoken volumes that we have community members that are asking where we are and why. And when they hear as to why, they're leaning in. So once again, it's an item that it's all internal. And for me, I struggle with that the most because it'd be easy if I was on crutches to show and to explain why I'm not playing basketball. But I can't even be around that level of volume right now because it's cognitive overload. So we believe that the Lord's plans are larger and bigger than our own. I believe that He's going to grow all these ministries, and if they do pivot, once again, that He'll continue to use us in our neighborhood. So a lot of that is to be determined. We're in the process of navigating what this means for our family, because once again, if I'm only able to give 40% of what I used to, I'm giving that to my family. And we're also praying that that would communicate volumes to our community to show that we need to be prioritizing families and our faith first. Because once again, we desire to give out of our overflow and not out of our lack. So a continued prayer request, but we're believing in a full miracle, and that this is not permanent. So that's where we're at right now. But to go back to that, Chris, like every single morning when I look at my circumstance in the physical, it is so easy to shut down. It is so easy to blame, to ask the why questions. But once again, I'm indexing on, Lord, help me to see my perspective through an eternal mindset. And when my feelings aren't aligned with that belief, I am choosing that my belief that you are greater is greater than my emotions, my feelings, my anxiety, my lack of sleep. So the Lord is healing me, and we're thanking Him in advance for that full healing. So,
wow,
That's
I had
incredible.
no idea, Jack. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
And our community is going to continue to be blessed because once again, like I'm one of God's sons, right? One avenue and vessel for the kingdom, and He's used us to raise up others. And our community needs Christ. So it's beautiful seeing that even when we're removed, these movements are still going forward because once again, it's greater than us. So we are in that pivot. We're discerning where to step back from entirely, where to equip others, where to lean in, where to lean out. But the Lord's going to guide us as He always does. So He's good.
And the Spirit of God just like radiates through you. So we will absolutely be
Amen.
praying for you. But I'm so honored that you would take time, and especially with all that's going on in your world, to talk to us
Yep.
and inspire us with like what you and Nikki are doing in a place that nobody knows about. Nobody knows about your name, knows about what you're doing.
Yep.
And I think that's just the way of the Lord. So good job, buddy. We're honored that you would even think about being a part of the Diffuse Network. And
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't say that our next summit is back in Charleston, February 6th through the 8th. This year it's $100 to be there, and then everybody's lodging is on them. But those invitations are going out, and if you know anybody that wants to be a part of that, we'd love to have them. But we're excited to host it again because it's just like 3 days of hanging out with people like Jack and Chris, and it's just the best. I mean, you leave going, okay, I'm back on mission. I can do this, and so it's really
Yes.
And the Lord is still alive and moving in the world, right? Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
Very exciting. Well,
Amen.
Jack, thank you for your
Very
time.
exciting.
Chris, thank you for co-hosting with me. I appreciate y'all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
God bless, Jack.